Hi everyone, John here from All Miniatures Great and Small. Today we're going to be reviewing and looking at the Primaris Redemptor Dreadnought. It's one of the new releases for the version 8 Warhammer 40k range. The Space Marines were the first codex that was released, and the Primaris Redemptor Dreadnought is one of the first releases for that codex. So first off, the box. This thing is a beast. It's a decent sized box. I think this retails $65 US. The box art is the best and most appropriate chapter, the Ultramarines.
Debatable.
And here we have the back, which shows the cool kind of, if these were Legos, it'd be the play feature. You can open up the sarcophagus and see the full thing there. It has a couple of weapons options as well. It's got a heavy onslaught cannon, or you can take the macro plasma incinerator. You can also take a flamer or a onslaught Gatling cannon under the power fist. You can also swap out these fragile storm launchers with storm bolters. All right, so what do you get for your $65? Let's find out. You get the construction manual, which is pretty standard fare nowadays. Games Workshop is in color, which I really like. Tells you what to glue, what to not glue, what's optional. So a lot of pages of that, and then it has the data sheet with power levels. Now it doesn't have, so it doesn't have the points. You'll need the codex. And it actually tells you that at the top. It says, these essential rules will get your new unit on the battlefield. For the full rules for this unit, see the codex or index book relevant to your army. And then the rest of it is the file in different languages. And then a painting guide on the back. Okay. So you get the construction manual, you get a Ultramarine vehicle transfer sheet. I don't know if you can see that well, but you get all kinds of cool stuff there. One giant base. This is bigger than the standard Dreadnought base. And then the Dreadnought itself is 3 different frames. The detail on these looks pretty nice. It's a little bit more complicated to construct than a normal Dreadnought. I think all of these kits have seen an increase in part number and whatnot. So this is actually my second kit. I've already built one. So I've already been through the build process with this. Nothing is too hard with the build process. The instructions are very clear. So it's pretty easy to build. It just takes a little while. So there you go. That is the contents of the box. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the unit in the codex, and then I'll show you a constructed example. All right, so here is the data sheet in the new Space Marine codex. There were 10 power levels for the Redemptor with a pretty beefy stat line. So this guy is a lot better, has a lot more wounds than a standard Dreadnought or Contemptor Dreadnought. He has a movement of 8 by default, a ballistic skill of 3, and a weapon skill of 3. The downside of him is that he does have a damage table. So he does degrade with damage, unlike a regular Space Marine Dreadnought. But the plus side is he has 3 more wounds, I think, than a normal Space Marine Dreadnought. So he's a little bit tougher. He's also faster than a normal Dreadnought. He's 8 inches move when he's not damaged or not degraded at all, which is nice because he has a big power fist. So the weapons that he can take, by default, the Redemptor has a heavy onslaught cannon, a heavy flamer, an Icarus rocket pod, 2 Fragstorm grenade launchers, and a Redemptor fist. So he's covered in weapons. We'll just kind of go over the main weapons first. So on his right arm, he can either take a heavy onslaught cannon or a macro plasma incinerator. So the heavy onslaught Gatling cannon is heavy 12, 30-inch range, strength 5, -1 AP, 1 damage. It's a pretty decent weapon. It is heavy, so if the Redemptor's moving, he's only hitting on 4s, but it's throwing out a lot of damage. The other option for that arm is that macro plasma incinerator, which has a farther range. It has a 36-inch range, and it's a heavy 6. And it's a strength 8, -4 AP, and 1 damage. It's strength 9, 2 damage if you overcharge it. Which one of these is better? I think the heavy onslaught Gatling cannon is better, and I believe it's priced a little bit more than the plasma incinerator. But with the plasma incinerator, you do have high strength and throwing out a lot of minuses, so maybe against tough armored opponents, the plasma incinerator would be a way to go. Now on the other arm, you have the Redemptor Fist. So that's a melee weapon. It's a double strength, so strength 7, so it's strength 14 for the Redemptor Dreadnought. -3 AP and a D6 damage. So that's normal Dreadnought close combat weapon is just 3, straight up 3 damage, but the Redemptor Fist does D6 damage, so potentially a lot more damage in close combat. Put that up together with 4 attacks and he can dish out a lot of damage. On that fist, he can either have a onslaught Gatling cannon or a heavy flamer. So the onslaught Gatling cannon is range 24, heavy 6, with the same stats as the heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, so strength 5, -1 AP, 1 damage. And the heavy flamer is your standard heavy flamer. It's D6, strength 5, -1. So kind of the same thing. I think the onslaught Gatling cannon kind of wins almost everywhere, except that you have to hit with it. If you're moving, again, you're hitting on a 4 base, which is tough. But I like that. So those are your 2 options there. Then you have the Icarus rocket pod, which doesn't have any option to swap it out. And basically that gives you some anti-air. So you get a +1, or you subtract 1 for shooting at units with fly, which is nice. It's heavy D3, strength 7, still just -1 AP, 1 damage, but it makes fly units a little bit harder to hit. I mean, easier to hit. Then last but not least, you have 2 Fragstorm grenade launchers, and those can be swapped out for Storm Bolters. The Fragstorms are assault D6, strength 4, 1 damage, nothing special about them. Storm Bolters are rapid fire 2, strength 4, 1 damage, so they're the same. So I think statistically your Fragstorms can probably do more damage, but the Storm Bolters have slightly longer range. Otherwise, let's see, abilities. This thing explodes on a 6, and it does, you roll a D6 for range to see if anything suffers D6 mortal wounds. So when it explodes, it can hurt. Faction keywords, it has Imperium, Adeptus Astartes, Chapter, Vehicle, Dreadnought, and Redemptor Dreadnought keywords. It is 10 power levels. Looking at normal points for that, we'll go to the back of the book here. The Redemptor Dreadnought base comes at 140 points. And then the heavy onslaught cannon is 36. So the heavy plasma incinerator, or sorry, what is that weapon called again? Macro plasma incinerator is 31. So the giant plasma gun is a little bit cheaper than the heavy onslaught cannon. All told, I'm not going to go through all the points. When you properly kit out the Dreadnought, he's going to be a little over 200 points. So there you go. That's a look at the book and the stats. What do I think of this? I've played about 4 games, I think, with the Redemptor Dreadnought so far, and he's died 3 of the 4 times, I think. He's good. I mean, he's covered in weapons, but with only 13 wounds, 14 wounds, whatever he has, and a 3-up armor save, he dies quick. He doesn't stick around long. But he's not that expensive. I'm finding this true with all the Primaris stuff. The Primaris are cool. They've got good stuff, but nothing is super overpowered or anything like that. So, all right, that's the Redemptor. Let's take a look at a completed model. All right, here you go, folks. This is my Redemptor. I've built them with the heavy onslaught cannon and the onslaught cannon on the fist. But I didn't glue these down, so you can actually pull them off and put the other weapons on if you want. I did model it with the storm bolters here. These are storm bolters on both sides. You could put those frag storm grenade launchers in there as well. These I just glued in just because it looked like a hassle to magnetize it, and it's a tiny little piece. And then you got the missile launcher on the top. It's fairly well articulated, so it's pretty cool. You can also have the hatch open up and see the sarcophagus within, which is kind of a cool feature. It doesn't really do anything or mean anything in the game, but still kind of neat to open it up. But you can kind of see the completed model here. He's pretty imposing. He's about the size of a Leviathan Dreadnought. Very cool. So I'm very pleased with the model. I think the model looks excellent. Stats-wise, he's okay. I don't think he's fantastic, but he's worth his points. So I'll leave it at that. So there you go. That is the Primaris Redemptor Dreadnought, $65 US. You probably find it for 10% off online if you look around at the right place. Hope you enjoyed this unboxing and review of the Redemptor Dreadnought. If you did, please go ahead and like the video, subscribe, check us out on Facebook as well. We're there at All Miniatures Great and Small. Thanks for watching, and keep on wargaming.